You're listening to the Hello Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Hello Well with Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle Washington, and it is Sunday fun day. If you are new, welcome to the show. Again, I'm the host of this podcast, as well as I'm the founder and CEO of Rogue Experiences, which is a travel company for women of color who are looking to get away and breathe and add a little self-care and sisterhood into their life, as well as the author of Travel is My Therapy, in addition to just being a certified Reiki master and a person who is all about this wellness revolution, helping women of color heal and take care of themselves. First, I want to say thank you and welcome to the new people, but I also want to say thank you all to who were rocking with us and were rocking with me this week. This week, oh my God, I had so much fun doing the dance challenge. So if you're new, for 5 days last week, I did a 5-minute dancing challenge. And so every day I danced for 5 minutes and encouraged other people to dance for 5 minutes. My posts are still on Instagram. So if you are kind of catching up and you want to see them, you go to the Hello Well with Danielle Instagram account. And you can see my daily posts that I did. One day I did the wobble. Another day I did my little kind of freak 'em drop it like it's hot dance, because my friend was like, girl, you have to do your signature move, which was dropping it. I felt that the next day, though, I won't lie. And then I ended it out with the classic, doing my new edition, If It Isn't Love. I'm like, oh my God, I'm starting to do it right now as I'm sitting here. I was like, calm yourself. But it was just one way I wanted to kind of help encourage us to continue to heal through dancing, which is something I do every day. So every day, a part of my morning routine is dancing. It's how I shift my mood. It's just how I kind of get myself going. So shout out to Dr. Renez Toussaint, who was a podcast guest a couple episodes ago, who talked with me about using dance as a form of healing. So if you haven't heard that podcast episode, I definitely encourage you to listen to that. So today is Sunday fun day. Yesterday was a powerful. Was it yesterday before? It's all blending together. Yesterday was a powerful full moon in Virgo. Shout out to my Virgos. I'm a Virgo, so I love a little Virgo full moon as well. But this one had me going in deep. This one was full moon, Virgo, Pisces season. And it really had us going to the depths of, our trauma and a couple different things. And what came up for me, which was kind of shocking, was suppressing my anger. Sometimes you think like, oh, I'm on this healing thing and I'm good. Like I'm working through things and I'm good. And then someone kind of shines light on you, or the universe shines light on you. It's like, nope, sis, this shadow over here, you've been, hiding this. It's still there. And what happened to me, or for me, and I'm glad it happened for me, not just happening to me. I'm just kind of shifting my words of saying, oh, this happened to me. This happened for me. I was in a full moon. I was in a full moon circle on Friday night, which was bomb. And I'll actually put the information for that. Harmony Phoenix does this really great full moon. I think she also does new moon circles too. And it goes into a little bit more depth than your traditional, hey, we're here, this is what's going on, and let's meditate. So I thought she does her interpretation of what she does was really good. Their interpretation of what of the full moon cycle and kind of how to go about do that is bomb. So I definitely encourage you to check out their information. But what I wanted to talk about was how in that session she read I'm working on my pronouns, y'all, so forgive me. I'm trying to be really good about this. They did a tarot reading, and in my reading, it was just they picked a card for me, and the card they picked was the Ten of Swords. And if you've, ever done tarot cards, or you look up the Ten of Swords tarot card, basically you'll see someone on their back, lying on their stomach, and with like 10 swords on their back. It don't look pretty, because it's not. It's not pretty. And we were talking about rage and anger during this time frame, and I had to kind of face, what was I suppressing? And when they brought it up to me, I was just like, because I had originally just said, like, I'd gone through this whole grieving process and I had kind of worked through it and I was good. Yeah, I was good there. But I had some suppressed anger towards my family that I wasn't addressing. I knew when they said that, I knew exactly what they were talking about. And I had to go through my own process the last, 48 hours to be exact, to really hone in on, okay, am now aware of what I'm suppressing. How can I flow through this? And so I'm going to talk to you today about how suppressing your anger can really be detrimental. And it's probably hurting you in ways that you don't even know. But before we get started, sometimes I like doing definitions, because that's kind of, let's set the scene as if it was a movie. So if you look at the word at suppression, and the suppression means a conscious act to cover up a thought, feeling, or urge toward a behavior that may be anxiety provoking. So I kind of already don't agree with this, because it's saying suppression is conscious. In reality check, it's not always conscious. In my case, it wasn't conscious. But, the other thing I like to say is, suppressing your anger, or suppressing anger, or suppression in general, or suppressing any emotion is AKA emotional avoidance. It's when you are trying to, avoid certain things that may inhibit emotional investment in your lives and those that are around you. And, I don't know, it can lead to many different things like depression. But, one thing I always hate to say is, suppressing your anger turns your anger inwards, which can actually affect it affects your health and your well-being. So why do we do it? And we don't do it because we're like, oh, it's fun. And I should also mention, suppressing your anger isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes we need to suppress our anger. Sometimes we're suppressing our anger to protect ourselves from different things. Suppressing our anger helps us calm down a heated situation for whatever reason. So say, you're in a fight with, your partner or a friend, and it's about to go left if you let this anger out. So yeah, suppressing the anger may be a good thing to do at the time to be able to calm down and go back to it. But we also suppress our anger out of a fear of abandonment. We suppress our anger because we're like, oh, well, if we express this anger, they're going to leave us, or something's going to happen. And so we suppress our anger out of fear of abandonment. We suppress our anger out of fear of hurting other people. I mean, think about it. You know that you're angry, but, you suppress your anger out of your child. They may have did something that really made you mad, but, you don't want to hurt their feelings as the kid. So you're like, well, I'm going to suppress my anger. Another thing to think about is, timing and appropriateness. You can't always be angry. I think about being at a workplace where, you don't want to get fired. So you got to suppress your anger, or, not wanting to be labeled as the angry Black woman. So again, we suppress our anger, which leads to code switching and a bunch of different things. And one day I'm going to do an episode on code switching, because I think that plays into so many different things, because I think that also can be detrimental to our health just as much as suppressing our anger, because we're suppressing our emotions one way or another. The another thing, about suppressing our anger and why we do it, it's a learned behavior. Oftentimes it's a learned behavior we got from our parents, and I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but sometimes, we just get these things from our parents and who repress their emotions. And signs of that is if your parents, rarely showed any emotion or talked about their feelings, or maybe, there was shame or punishment for you expressing your emotions. Like you were told, you should be grateful. Love living in the city. Always got to hear sounds of sirens. You should be grateful, stop crying, be a good girl, calm down, or my favorite, I'm going to give you a reason to be angry. Like, don't let me have to give you a reason. Clearly that, I heard that way too many times in my childhood. But, sometimes our parents just kind of had these things that made you, feel that you had to suppress your anger. But then there's also different times where you unconsciously suppress your anger. And I think that's kind of where I came from. Like in this current situation that I was working through recently was that I didn't realize I was suppressing my anger. I thought I was good. I thought I was had worked through it. I thought okay, I understood these situations, and not like I had never expressed or thought about these moments, but I thought I had dealt with it. But I had dealt with it on a higher level where emotionally, or my inner child was still nah, sis, we still hella mad about this. This still is a trigger for us. And it was showing up in different aspects of my life. And so, if you are showing feelings, I don't know, oftentimes when you weren't able to express your feelings as a child, these things do show up unconsciously. And, if you were showing your emotions as a child was stressful, you might have started burying your emotions. Or you might have some guilt or shame around showing your emotions again, not wanting to be that bad child, being having bad emotions labeled you as a bad person, and you not wanting to be labeled a bad person. So I find that, yes, I do bury certain emotions, and anger is one of them, which is kind of funny because as a kid, I was kind of angry. I was angry at different things, and there was a point where I switched it off. As low key, I used to bust doors and holes in the walls. My parents probably hated me. I'm sure they did. But it was what it was. I was angry. I was angry for many different reasons. And one day I probably will talk about some of those reasons. But I was angry about a lot of different things. And it showed up, in that form of I needed to break something. I literally would see red until I broke something. And when I broke something, I was like, oh, I'm about to get my ass beat. So that usually calmed me down. But at one point in my life, I learned to suppress anger and certain things, and I do bury it. I am horrible at conflict. Let me rephrase that. Working on the words. In the past, I have been horrible at conflict. I am working through finding different ways to be healthier in my conflict resolution and dealing with problems and dealing with my anger, which is why I really wanted to come here and do this podcast today on suppressing your anger and how it's showing up in different parts of your life. One thing that, it's going to suck to say, but I feel like this is kind of just ripping off the Band-Aid, because it's a reality I had to come to terms with, is suppressing your anger. It doesn't mean the anger goes away. It doesn't mean that if I suppress it, if I bury the anger or bury the emotions, it's gone. Nah, sis, it ain't gone. You just moved it from the conscious to the unconscious mind, where it's still showing up in different ways. And you're still giving it, power to, over your behavior. It's just showing up where your ego is taking it and using it against you, resulting in, denied feelings turning into limiting beliefs that make you choose harmful behavior, and it's honestly stealing your potential for joy. And it also can cause situations of feeling unworthy. So what happens when we suppress our anger? Again, we talked about it not going away, so it is what it is. So it's always there. As hard as you try our emotions, as hard as you try to bury your emotions, they're still always there. So, and the more further away you move from your authentic self, by doing this and burying it, you devalue who you are. You lose a little bit of you each time. Another danger is we talk about it all the time, or I talk about it all the time, is how our emotions show up in our body. And anger is one of those emotions that you kind of don't want in your body. And it does show up. It shows up in high blood pressure, as much muscle tension and pain. It shows up as fatigue and sleeping issues. Ooh, sleeping issues. Interesting. Inflammation. It shows up as, changes in your appetite, cardiovascular disease, digestive problems. And so those are some ways it shows up physically in your body. But, also one of the dangers of suppressing emotions is that point where you keep suppressing it to the point where it boils up, and then you just explode. And oftentimes when you're exploding in rage, it happens to be on someone who wasn't even a part of the reason why you're angry in the first place, so unintentional on some innocent bystander, or you're exploding on the person you're really angry at, and it doesn't match the situation. So you may be mad at, a friend, and you let things slide. You let them slide. You let things slide to the point where now this time you're like, I'm not letting it slide. And you're mad and blowing up on them because they took the last apple when you're really mad about all these other things that happened in the past. And so again, letting it suppress and letting it build up, it builds up like a snowball that can, explode into a big ass bomb. So you don't want to have that happen to you. But also, not expressing your emotions and your anger, you're just not being you. Real talk, you're not being yourself. You're wearing a mask. You start building up walls. And talking about walls, I know walls all too well because you're trying to protect yourself in many different ways. You're protecting yourself, and that's why you are suppressing it to some degree, because you're protecting yourself from this feeling that you don't want to feel. Again, emotional avoidance. So you're building walls, you're wearing a mask, which can be hella lonely. But also, you are avoiding conflict, which means you're not really in a real relationship. You're not really connecting to people because you're having these walls and these masks up. So you're not able to authentically connect with other people, which again could feel really lonely. And you're just hiding the real you. And that, again, doesn't help you in any which way. And it kind of just sucks, to be honest. But also suppressing it, works in a way where, let me rephrase that. I talked about before about, work and suppressing your anger. Again, I get that at work, you can't always show your anger, but thinking about the dangers of suppressing your anger at work is also just as bad. Because think about it, when you're suppressing your anger at work and you're not really a part of the team, you're not being effective collaborating in collaboration, you're not giving your opinion on things, it affects your work situation, you're probably salty as all can be, and you can lead to being passive aggressive. So no one really wants a passive aggressive coworker, which then affects your relationships with your coworkers even further. And so it's like, the snowball of situations. So I get there are times when, yes, you feel like you need to maybe calm down and then come back, but suppressing it and hiding your voice at work doesn't help you, it doesn't help your career advancement, and it doesn't help your relationships at work. So that's something you want to work at big time, because also times when you are suppressing your anger at work, you have a tendency to bring the anger back home and hit up some, innocent bystander like your family, and your rage comes that way and it's projected onto them when it's really towards, that salty coworker who was a Karen doing something wrong. Girl, I know we've all had one of those, so don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. All right, so how to know if you're suppressing your anger? Reality, it's not easy. There's no test. There's no, here, go to Cosmopolitan or wherever and do this test and you'll find out if you're suppressing your anger. No, there's no test, but there are signs that may show up in your behaviors or feelings towards yourself or others. So some of the signs are that you go along with situations instead of expressing what you really feel. I am totally known for that one. Another one is using social media, TV, alcohol, drugs to numb and avoid feeling what you want to avoid, and what you're trying not to explore, or feeling like nervous or low in energy or stressed out a lot of time, even if you aren't sure why. Another thing to think about, or if you feel uneasy or discomfort when others are trying to tell you about their feelings, or you may feel irritated when someone asks you about your own feelings. We talked about before being passive aggressive behavior. That's a sure sign of you're probably suppressing your anger. Oftentimes the people who are angry or suppressing it are passive aggressive. And then the other one I wanted to bring up was sometimes, if you often hear people saying, hey, you're so described as being chilled, calm, relaxed, that may be, it sounds good and it sounds positive, but that may be a time for you to come back and be like, ooh, wait, am I really chilled, relaxed on these things, or am I unintentionally holding on to some anger and I'm not expressing it? So that's a time for you to it's kind of that yellow flag. We won't call it a red flag, but a yellow flag to check in with yourself. So how do you go about releasing this anger? Step one is awakening. Awakening and being self-aware of that you're actually doing this, which was what happened to me. Through me, the awakening was, someone giving me a tarot card that showed some stuff and asking me a question, which had me kind of go back into myself internally and think, am I suppressing? I'm like, oh, yeah, I am. I am suppressing some anger from my inner child, is holding on to from things that happened in my childhood. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just is what it is. But it's like, then you got to make the choice. What am I going to do with it? And so one of the ways I love to kind of awaken and flow through your emotions is from Tara Brach. My friend introduced me to Tara Brach, and like, she is like thebomb.com. Like, if you don't know her, I encourage you to go on Spotify and listen to some of her talks. The way she breaks down things so beautifully. She has a book called Radical Compassion, and it's just a great book in general. But she's this thing called RAIN. And RAIN is an acronym, and it stands for, recognize, allow, investigate, and then the end changes. So it's either nurture or nourish. But, it starts off with recognizing what's happening and then allowing the experience to be there just as it is without any judgment, which is very interesting in the way she breaks it down and kind of really talks to you about like how to go about doing this. And then investigate with interest and care, and then nurture or nourish with self-compassion. Like, I'm not going to go into full detail about all of this, just because I think she does such a good job. But I will post a link on the website talking about, more details on how to go through the steps. And also I think she has a free download as well on that. So making sure that I give you guys that. But RAIN has helped me so much. If you're like in the immediate situation, I think RAIN is great for like work situations. So when you're trying to keep your composure, but you also want to express your anger, I think RAIN is a great method to just kind of work through that. Step two in general, besides just being aware of your emotions, is letting go of judgment. Oftentimes we judge our emotions, and it kind of goes back to our childhood. Like, oh, you being angry, you were told you were being bad. Don't you want to be a good girl? No one's going to want to be around someone who's always angry, and all these different other things. And so let go of the judgment. Let go of the judgment that you're giving to yourself. If you have to forgive yourself and have compassion for yourself, then do that. But holding on to the judgment of the feeling or the guilt or the shame around anger is not going to help you get through it. What will help you get through it, which is my step 3, is, you have to feel to heal. And in that situation, it's about expressing your emotions. And there's different ways you can go about expressing your emotion and expressing your anger. Therapy is a safe space to do it. I encourage people to go to therapy all the time. I love my therapist. My therapist is bomb. I also love a life coach, and I love my life coach as well. Like, having the two for me, I can express my anger in different ways and talk to people that can help me in a variety of ways. And that's why I kind of like having a life coach versus a therapist, because I talk to them and they come at the problem. It may be the same situation, but they come at it from a different avenue. So I love having kind of, that crew to help me. You can always go to your friends too, but I kind of like having a non-judgmental, someone who doesn't have a stake in the situation or in your happiness one way or another to talk to. That's a safe space. So that's why I kind of encourage a therapist. What was recommended to me was having a rage party. Going out to the river or the lake or some body of water and just yelling. Just go out to, a crossroads, like a railroad crossroads or empty field, and just yell. But of course, you kind of want to make sure you're in a place where you're not going to get arrested or someone's going to call on you for being a person of color, just randomly yelling in the streets, whatever, which was harder for me living in San Francisco to do that. But go and just yell. Get it out physically. just get, rage, like create a playlist of songs that, I have my song that is like, no, I don't F with you. But I have, create a playlist of songs that help you get that anger out. And, that might be something that may be really helpful to you. Another thing I love to do is journaling. We had a whole podcast on journaling and the importance of journaling, but it's a great way to really tap into and express your emotions. If you never express these emotions to anyone else, it's a safe space for you to get out everything you're feeling, especially anger. And I often do journal when I'm angry. And then movement, we talked about, I love dancing, but, running, exercising. There is this other thing called, I forgot what it stands for. It's TRE, it's TRE, but it's like kind of this shaking thing that you do, and it helps you shake out your emotions. Breath work is another great one about releasing emotions. I'll put notes I'll put in the resources about the TRE thing because I really like that. Another thing I like doing is tapping. I remember being at Burning Man and I heard about tapping and I was like, oh, this will be interesting. And I was like doing it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so white. And I feel bad for saying that, but that's what I thought at the time. I was just like, I was in my thoughts, and it was my opinion. I was like, oh my God, this is so stupid. Why am I doing? And then all of a sudden, whoosh, the emotions came out, and I am like ugly crying on some random stranger's shoulders who's like sitting next to me. So I love tapping as well. It is something that's maybe out of the norm of what you may have thought of, but it does definitely work. And so I encourage you to look at different ways and different methods to release that energy. Also consider doing a burning ritual. Write down, once you've kind of, figured out what it is, you're aware, and kind of work through some of it through journaling, whatever, you may get ready to release. And then writing down what you want to release. A full moon is a great time to release those type of things. But like, write down what you want to release and burn them. Just have a burning ceremony. Another thing, once you've kind of worked through the awakening of it, you've worked through, not judging yourself and then expressing your emotions, it's now time to shift and redefine your habits. And it's about making habits to check in with yourself on a regular basis. Again, journaling is a great way to go about doing that. Also, adding in some mindfulness practices will be helpful. Understanding your triggers, like what triggers you to be angry, what triggers you to suppress your anger, because there's something. And if you start following the signs and the patterns, it helps you be able to shift out of those patterns. Finding ways to incorporate healthy ways to express your anger. Meditation is great. And then other one I love using is Reiki. Reiki, is a Japanese form of stress reduction and relaxation. And it helps you reflect on your emotional state, but also it can be used to bring hidden aspects of yourself that you haven't been aware of to light. And that's what I love about Reiki. And at the end of the day, worst case scenario, just start singing Frozen. Let it go. Let it go. I don't know if that last one's going to work, but sometimes adding humor also helps me release anger. And so, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts for today. So all I know is we don't always know what's going on, but our body does. So listening to your body, tapping into your body, and that's why meditation is so good, because it helps you tap into your body to recognize, oh, I'm feeling this thing, and me feeling this thing may not be just a physical thing. Me having those muscle pains may actually be rooted in some emotion that I'm not thinking about. So sometimes you may need to just keep punching things and, working out like what is it that I'm feeling? What is it oh, it's anger. Okay. Because I'm feeling something in my back. Okay, let's think this through. And, through doing the running or whatever, or meditating, you will come to the point of the realization of, oh, this is why I'm angry. But sometimes we don't recognize it. That's why, when I talked about suppression being a conscious thing, I don't think it's always conscious. And it can be conscious. And I've talked about ways that it can be, but it's not always conscious. So hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. I would love to hear like how you guys work through your anger and anger management. If you have tips, let a sister know, because this is a community. I'm not saying I'm a guru by any means necessary. I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm saying I'm someone who's on this journey and just trying to help everyone else kind of keep us going on this journey so we can all heal together. All right, that's it for today's episode. All I can say also, I want to mention next week's episode is going to be fire. I have a highly anticipated guest coming, and I'm not going to say who it is, but I'm super excited about next week's guest because it's on a topic that is really, I've been really pouring more into and I've been learning more about, and I wanted more people to know about it. And it's something I knew when I started this podcast that I wanted to talk about, but I couldn't find the right person until recently. So I'm super, super excited to have her on the show next week. So stay tuned for next week. And other than that, keep dancing, keep healing, and sis, stop suppressing that anger. Love you. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you like hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.